Alright, let's get right back on into it for the trial ladder, huh? See how things shape up after this. It doesn't say the final day, so I don't know if this. I don't think this is going to be the last thing for it. Maybe? Might be? They've got a lot of time sunk into this now. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Sky. Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me, partner? Oh, I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization. Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know. You're a patrolman. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind calling it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? Never heard Edward described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? This brother's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. Alright. My job was to keep a wary eye on the bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at the street side saloon at the time I went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. I can't say I particularly care for your attitude. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Yes, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks on the evidence lockers? Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines or following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses, now don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours. Let's see. But how exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room? I just made sure to know the mood in the security camera monitor. That's room so still. Even Tom dies in there. I was just a caretaker who entered the recordings. Interred them. Videos of nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape. Nothing unusual was recorded. Tapes are to be erased every 6 hours. Each time I'd erase the tape, it felt like I was wasting a part of my life. This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but isn't gonna do him any good. So in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room? But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right? Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style. I'm afraid I don't understand. No desperado I know lets rules get in his way. No desperados I know join the police force. So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime? Just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day. There was a rubber glove stuck in the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner. Can't say I do. I haven't been in that crypt in weeks. How does this guy avoid being fired? You used to be a detective, so you've used the evidence room in the past, correct? Of course, back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence. And yet, you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism? Sorry, partner, I ain't good with machines. Can't even tell you how a bike works. That's quite, incredible. The sensors on the locker handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. How would that be possible, though? Now that you mentioned it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that too. At any rate, it doesn't seem that this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place? What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Get spaghetti western? Got him. Not even Angel's steak lunches can beat that pile of Angola sepia pasta. Do you mean to tell us you abandoned your police duty to eat some noodles? Not all desperados eat tacos, partner. That's not what I meant. Hope this has at least taught you a lesson. That's strange. This is usually where Edward says, "Did you not want to raise this year?" Out of ammo, Officer Marshall? That's Rapano, as you like to call it, evidence. If you plan to pin me to this crime, then you'd better draw. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. My steel horse is waiting to carry me back west into the sunset. One more thing seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, the witness doesn't appear to have seen anything. Texans don't take orders from anyone, everyone knows that. Apparently your superiors don't. Okay, I have a travel card up my sleeve, so I'd best keep my cool. Before I use it though, I'd better up the ante. Okay. Yeah, let's check this. So, Joe Drake, I've seen serial murder since death. Victims, Edward Jones, Heath Kirby, Jeff Bates. Ooh, Neil Marshall. Rachel Moss, Jason Knight. Prosecutor Miles, Edgeworth, witnesses Lana Sky, Emma Sky. Executive investigators, Damon Gant, Lana Sky, and then Bruce Goodman, investigators Jake Marshall and Angel Star. Okay. So I need to figure out what I need to push him on. Still have no clue who the 777. What if we try? No. Your Honor, this even can do 7? No. No, it doesn't. Okay. Okay. So we've got you. Got this. Piece is missing. Evidence locker. Glove. Scene of the stabbing. Evidence fit. Am I right? Okay, I have a travel card at my save, so I'd best keep my cool. Before I use it though, I better up the ante. So there's gotta be something that I can be like, hey, so what would it be? Like, so it's found on a bloody head print left in the evidence room. The print had been wiped. Stabbing. Oh no. How am I getting tripped up on like the first piece of evidence thing that I need to... Nope, that's not it either. Yeah, I know. Supposed to make my rounds, but it's not my style. Besides, we're protected by 2 security systems, remember, right? Is there anything? I mean, I have no clue. Oh, I hate it here. Because I'm like, there's gotta be something I'm missing then. That's like probably right in front of my face, but I'm just dumb. Okay. So... So... So maybe it is just this? Oh. Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or, to be exact, a handprint. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I'd pay my respects, that is, make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. Witness, what is the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene? The blood was wiped away. However, luminol tests clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? Seems to me, there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall? About the blood-stained fingerprints? Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints, found at the scene of the crime. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be in the same place as the bloodstained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. Bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See, I had nothing to do with it. The witness explanation appears valid, though there's room for doubt. Life wouldn't be any fun without any doubt, partner. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guy's hiding something, I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. Yeah, so definitely the gloves part, because how would he know that? That's because you, how'd you put it, pay your respects once a month? Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. The locker happens to be mine. What? What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker has still use. All that's in there now, though, and is a heap of broken dreams. I see. Be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed from the locker's programming. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. Okay. So then, what about the bloody handprint? It wasn't mine, it's no mystery. Please explain. The locker's covered with my fingerprints, and just so happened... I touch the locker with... okay. The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could argue just the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward from me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why? Unrelated? They're as different as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast and the other's a type of murder. He's right, although seemingly like they're totally different. I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. How'd you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There's a blood stain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It's found in Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too. So that would mean the murderer, wearing gloves, happened to place her hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint? That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? The seal of blood in the desert is just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and it's this. The security tape? As long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully what you're going with this cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. Okay. But can I challenge you? Okay. What do you mean by that? You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is only direct evidence he has. But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see? The camera's panning back and forth, and the floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now. Very well, allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. Now then, let's have another look at the video. Show us this incriminating... Ah, man, I haven't heard this jam in forever. But it's gotta be this time finally, right? Please. Bring our attention back to the security camera. It's a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words, not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out, that was the witnesses, I believe. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Oh, the white cloth. It's gone. What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When a crime took place, white cloth wasn't there. Then, it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Order, order. It would seem that's the only. Hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was open? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he stuck it in a locker, or he opened a locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? Because we know you can't open them up without... This guy isn't just playing dumb, he really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah, I call you bluff. You say open that locker, now prove it. Fingerprint sensor? We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. But what kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people on the force who don't know about the fingerprint locks. So Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? I only got one word for you. No. Order, 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 witness. Explain yourself. This is a joke, it's the worst I ever heard. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime. Ole, please answer the question. Was he now a bullfighter? That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure out the rest from here. We can. Have a look at these floor plans. There's no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, then where was the witness? Seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right, the only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? I can't tell who's who. Officer Marshall was standing right here. So Officer Meekins didn't notice him standing there. That's almost as credible as Meekins' warp theory. Now they're getting up on me? Perhaps. You should think a little more about where Officer Marshall was. He means, oh. I say, okay, so... Okay. There we go. Officer Marshall was standing right here. There, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct, unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in this video is Officer Marshall. It was you dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he knew for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir. Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me. Something about that officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why wouldn't he just show it? Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple, he couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized that the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? You've got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Don't know why I said that way weirder than I meant to. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I can say I don't care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. This can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was starting out. When you run into a wall, there's no place to go. Return to the basics. The basics? Aha! For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside of the box. Shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise, but rather I should look for evidence that he came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was open in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open this locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later, as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth? Perhaps a video is the key to our answered question. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot. Very well, let's take another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness opened the locker. Please, I've only got one life left. My guess. Oh, rewind. Be kind, rewind, you know what I mean. Is it the blood? For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman, and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end, yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner. Yeah, look at us. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it. Alright. Seems the time has come. Okay. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. Stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. Wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. And managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on the camera. Wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. Okay. When you say it, you mean... You even have to ask, partner. SO9 incident. 2 years ago passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. What did you have to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only the case's lead detective can get through the evidence. I want to have a look at myself one more time, no matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner, that case is mine. Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance, that's why Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So, you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card? I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out the lost item report. I returned his ID card and left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card that I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do y'all mean, partner? I mean, the fingerprint activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. But he could because a rubber glove just happened to be stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. Okay. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. Didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a one-in-a-million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID? I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year. When did Edgeworth get so much influence? Anyway, he threw himself at me and ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry I had to turn out that way. With me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekins out and... escape? Okay. So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. Didn't think it would make a difference though. The security tapes were raised every 6 hours. If all had gone to plan, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat and you struggled with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. Open my locker and stash it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby. So what you're saying is, on that day... But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What, are you blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So, you stole the evidence from the locker? Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer, is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. You can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case, this one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal, let's hear more. I know why. But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's a reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved a sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think is the real reason. Feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in the case one way or another. Let's take another look at the files. So, we're gonna look. Present. Let me double check first, because it's gonna be under victims for Neil Marshall. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. And a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right, he was killed. And the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. He was investigating the murders with Bayman Gant, the then Deputy Chief of Police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence, and that was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I know my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? Your reason for your insane actions? There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happened by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder in the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's gotta be more than just that. So, if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which, in turn, means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. Seems to me, this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. A sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Starr is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. I'm going to object. I rest my case. Seems the trial's reached its conclusion. There is no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time. Disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera tape was really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant. Hold it. Your Honor, wait. Emma. The defense has an objection, a scientific objection, right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright? Are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor, in a sense. Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings? Now that she mentions it, the name of both Sky's sisters were in that file. That's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day? So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing, the other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right? No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked again. So, did you find something? No. Huh? Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all? Please don't be mad, I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone would save Lana, it's you. Me? Oh boy. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be... Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day. Yes, Your Honor. If ever I've needed to concentrate, it's not. I read concentrate as concrete for a second. What could be wrong with the handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? Of course there's something I'm missing. The handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them? Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark. Let us pray that the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright. With all this evidence here, there's gotta be something I can use. Oh, is it you? What about that piece of plywood? The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force? Defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not on here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well, what? That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint on this spot on the locker. What? Yeah, look at me. So that means, Just exactly what does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker. Don't look at me, I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Emma. On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the blue badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. So that must mean the blood mark was left there before the blue badger was brought in? Just one moment, I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom. It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on the tape taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is the other time. So someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that doesn't explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you put before it really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show us evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur? To summarize, the defense claims that, prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room. That's right, the blood mark on this locker provides it, or proves it. Very well, Very well, then tell us. When did the first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented. Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that. Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place? So the only thing that we're missing is this. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer wouldn't have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. An ID card? Oh, the ID card record. Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room. Let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m. Miles Edgeworth? Just what have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the neural tests that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the room. Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining, 777-7777. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, He must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 777, 777. 7? I don't know. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 777777777. That's one 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least, at present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 7777777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous. Just how... I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There's one situation in which we may be granted such authority. If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question. Yes? No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. But Anna? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked her up ID number, and it's not 7777777. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. The SL9 incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Ooh. You need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor. I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, we occasionally felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. But, Lana, I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Well, why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But, Lana, even if it involved forging evidence. Well, that's not good. See, that's what I'm talking about. No, no. Order, 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 order! Lana's remarks caused such a stir. The case in the courtroom can be put, we'll have to wait until the following day. Yikes. To be continued. Yeah, I'll save my progress up to this point. Okay, time for another day of investigations. So with that all said and done, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. Things are really, really heating up. If you did enjoy, don't forget to like, subscribe, all that fun jazz. And I will see you in the next one.